You can curse the weight on your shoulders and still miss the gift it carries. There are seasons when burden feels like the enemy. Each morning begins with the same heaviness pressing against your chest. Each evening ends with the same fatigue sinking into your bones. You curse the responsibilities, the expectations, the demands that never let you rest. And yet I've learned the hard way that sometimes the very weight I despise is the proof of what I love most. A burden is rarely just cost. More often, it hides meaning inside it. I remember times when I carried too much. Tasks piled high, relationships stretched thin, sleep elusive. I told myself I was drowning under obligations. But years later, when I looked back, I realized those very weights were tied to the people and places that mattered most to me. The things that exhausted me were also the things that gave me identity. Burden was not punishment. It was presence. Stephen once admitted, "All I see is the cost, the bills, the deadlines, the endless strain. I forget that the only reason I'm tired is because I care about them." His honesty revealed the paradox clearly. Responsibility looks like chains until you notice the love hidden inside. Angela confessed the opposite ache. "I've avoided weight all my life, but sometimes I feel empty, like I've missed what really gives life meaning." Her words remind me that burden avoided may feel like freedom at first, but it often leaves you hollow. The ache of weariness is real. It bends your back, fogs your mind, makes you wish for escape. But there is a second truth alongside it. The heaviest stones often hide the brightest gifts. I think of my father's hands. They were calloused, thickened by years of labor, lines etched deep into his palms. When I was a child, I didn't understand why they looked so rough, why his skin cracked at the edges, why his knuckles seemed permanently worn. I only knew that those hands lifted what was heavy, built what was needed, repaired what was broken. As I grew older, I began to see the story inside them, the long shifts he worked to keep food on the table, the endless repairs on the house, the quiet hours fixing what others had broken. His hands were maps of burden, but not burden as punishment, burden as proof of love. Each scar, each crack was evidence of what he carried for us. I carry that memory with reverence now. Because in my younger years, I cursed the weight he bore. I wanted him freer, lighter, less tired. I mistook his silence for absence. Only later did I realize that the very weight that seemed to cage him was also the shape of his devotion. Stephen once sighed, "I see only the exhaustion. I forget that the reason I'm tired is because I'm showing up for the people I love." Angela, in her drifting, admitted, "I run from weight, but then I feel emptier. Like freedom without burden has no anchor." Their words frame the contradiction perfectly. Burden can crush you when you carry it blindly. But when carried with awareness, it reveals its hidden gift. I once wrote in my journal, "Burden carried blindly crushes. Burden carried mindfully reveals." My father's hands taught me that. Sometimes weight is love disguised. It has taken me decades to understand that line. For so long, I thought love was only tenderness, lightness, joy. But love also wears the skin of burden. Waking in the night to comfort a child. Working hours you'd rather escape. Showing up even when you are tired. These weights are not curses, they are the shapes love takes when it chooses responsibility. I once came across the perspective that suffering itself can be a teacher. It unsettled me because I wanted to escape suffering, not learn from it. But the older I grow, the more I see its truth. Burden asks something of us. It presses us down, yes, but it also reveals what matters most. The heaviest stones in my life were often tied to the brightest loves. Stephen told me I cursed the strain. But when I step back, I realize the strain is the cost of the people I would never trade. Angela reflected, I thought freedom meant no burden. But without any weight, life feels shallow. Their honesty shows what I too have come to believe. Burden is not punishment, it is presence. The heaviest silence is the one where we refuse to look at what our weight is carrying. Burden avoided leaves us restless. Burden embraced reveals meaning. I've written another line in my journal. The heaviest stone often hides the brightest gift. Each time I read it, I think of my father's hands, of nights when exhaustion came because I was caring for someone I loved, of mornings when responsibility bent me but reminded me I belonged. Burden is not an enemy. It is a teacher. Sometimes it teaches patience, sometimes endurance. But always, if we let it, it teaches love. The phoenix teaches us that ashes are not the end. They are the seed of rebirth. I've always been struck by that image. A creature burns, reduced to nothing but fragments of itself, a weight that looks like ruin, and yet from that ruin, life begins again. Ashes are not absence, they are soil. Burden is not only crushing, it is often the ground from which new strength rises. I felt this once in the quiet aftermath of a season of exhaustion. I had carried too much for too long. Responsibilities at work, family pressures, the silent duty of being the dependable one. When it ended, I collapsed. For weeks I felt hollow, like the embers of myself had gone out. But slowly in that silence, I began to see the truth. The weight I cursed had also carved me, stripped away illusions, left me closer to what mattered. The ashes became the soil of a different self. Stephen once admitted, I only see the cost, the endless bills, the deadlines. I don't see what it's shaping in me until later. Angela shared her mirror. I ran from burden, thinking it would free me. But what I found was emptiness. No ashes, no fire, no growth. Their voices bring me back to the phoenix. Weight that looks like ruin can be the beginning of rebirth. I think often of how burden reshapes us in ways escape never can. Escape offers relief, but it doesn't carve. Burden presses, bends, teaches. And if we dare to see beyond the pain, it reveals. Burden carried blindly crushes. Burden carried mindfully reveals. Stephen's confession echoes this. I curse the weight, but I forget it's proof that I care, proof that I love. Angela's voice echoes too. I avoid weight, but freedom without burden feels hollow. Both admit that weight is not the problem. Forgetting its meaning is. I know this deeply. There were years when I saw burden only as curse. I clenched my fists against it, muttered under my breath, longed for escape. But later, looking back, I saw what it had taught me: endurance, patience, devotion, even love. Burden had been a teacher, though I had refused to call it that at the time. The detour is not to seek more weight or to flee it entirely. The detour is to see what the weight carries within it. To ask, what is this burden showing me? Who is this weight tied to? What love is hidden inside this strain? I once wrote in my journal, sometimes weight is love disguised. It reminds me that the ache in my back, the fatigue in my bones, the strain in my chest often point not to punishment, but to presence. The people, the promises, the loves I would never trade. So I ask myself often, if the burden is a teacher, what lesson is mine asking me to learn? You don't carry weight alone. You carry the love hidden within it. The truth sits with me tonight as I close my journal, the pen heavy in my hand. I think of my father's calloused hands, proof of love disguised as labor. I think of the phoenix, ashes that looked like ruin, but became rebirth. I think of Stephen, weary from responsibilities he sees only as a cost, and Angela, restless from running from the very weight that could give her meaning. Their voices echo the same reminder. Burden is not enemy. Burden is presence. The road feels heavier on some days, not because it demands more, but because of how much I bring to it. Burden has a way of pressing into the shoulders until all you feel is the ache. For years, I treated that ache as proof of curse, as though carrying meant I was being punished. But I see now that weight is not only cost. Sometimes it is evidence of love. Sometimes it has a meaning in disguise. The ache of carrying will return. My shoulders will still bow, my back will still tire, my spirit will still groan beneath responsibilities that never seem to end. That is real. But alongside the ache, I can now ask a quieter question. What love is hidden here? What presence hides beneath the fatigue? Often I find it in the simplest ways, in the calloused hands of a father who worked so his family might rest, in the memory of lifting what mattered most, even when it seemed too heavy, in the silent endurance that only exists because love demanded it. The gift doesn't announce itself. It waits quietly inside the strain. The road bends forward, shadowed yet steady. I cannot see what lies beyond, but I no longer need to. For now I carry what is mine to carry, and I whisper to the silence, maybe the weight was never cursed at all. Maybe it is the gift that shows me where my love has lived all along.